Good evening. If you want to turn over to the book of Ecclesiastes, back in your Old Testament. I'm not sure if I have ever preached an entire sermon on Ecclesiastes. I know I've hit it in class, and I've hit little bits and pieces from it here and there, but we're going to look at that book tonight. It's come across in our daily Bible reading in this past week, and there's a lot there. I was thinking, as I was thinking about this book, I graduated from high school in 1991, and no one has asked me what I made on the ACT in a very long time. Everything was pushing towards that when I was a high school student. Everything was, you got to have this ACT score to get into this school and get this scholarship and all of that. And I remember going to take it. I'm not even going to tell you, by the way. I remember going to take it the first time. It was the summer, I believe the summer of my sophomore year, if I remember right. And it was at the University of South Alabama is where they gave it. And I went there to the university, and I went in and I sat down, and I realized before the person even told us that this was the case, it's July, South Alabama, just hot. And the first thing they say to us after giving us the test booklet is, you may have noticed the air conditioning is out in this classroom. And I thought to myself, there are people in probably 20 classrooms at this university right now taking this test, and I'm in the one where the air conditioning doesn't work. And I felt just like this is going to be miserable. And then I looked at the girl in the desk next to me who was pregnant, and just sweat like pouring off her face already. And I thought, oh man, she's going to be hating life here in a minute. And there were points in that test where I looked down and sweat had begun to smudge the number 2 pencil marks on my little score sheet. And I thought, well, this is going to be awful. And I got the score back, and I was pretty excited with it. It was kind of along the lines of what I'd hoped for. I went to take it again a year later in perfect conditions, where the air was working great and everything was fine, and I knew another year's worth of stuff than I knew before, and I scored 3 points lower. And I thought, I'm done. I'm not going to do this again. Now, I thought that there was going to be a lot of importance in that. I thought my high school diploma is somewhere. I couldn't even tell you right now where it is. I think I have an idea that it's in a box in a particular closet. It's somewhere at this point. I thought that was the most important document in the world to me at one time, and it's never been on display since I went to college. It's never been in a place of honor in my house, and it was such a big deal. I have a trumpet, again, somewhere. I think it's in the same closet as the diploma. It is gathered dust on the case on the outside. If I were ever to get it out and try to play it, I would have to lubricate all things on it first just to make it be able to go. And at one time, that was like the most important thing in my world, was being able to play that and play it well. Sorry, Richard. And now it's just kind of gone. And I would imagine if one of those doesn't click with you, and maybe none of them do, you have your own version of that, where there was something in your life that at one time seemed like the most important thing. It seemed like the thing that brought some kind of meaning to life for you. And you probably never would have admitted that you sought out looking for meaning in that thing, but oftentimes that's what we tend to find. And that's what the writer of Ecclesiastes is doing throughout the book, is looking at life, looking at the things of the world, and searching for meaning of some kind. So Ecclesiastes, chapter 1, beginning in verse 1, the writer says, the words of the preacher, the son of David, the king in Jerusalem. There's a lot of debate about who this is. I think we have assumed for a long time Solomon, because he says the son of David, the king, and he's the wise guy, and so you would think, well, this must be him. That's probably still a pretty good guess, as much as anybody has. But within this, he sets up kind of this character of the preacher. Or if you have been following along in our daily Bible reading and you watch the little videos that go with that, the way the Bible Project puts him is the critic, which I think is kind of an interesting way to think of him. That he's kind of this guy who is looking at the things of the world and the things of life and almost kind of casting a judgment on whether these things are worthwhile or not. So this preacher begins by saying this, vanity of vanities, says the preacher, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Now, I have to admit to you, much like admonish this morning, I don't use vanity a whole lot nowadays, but the different translations put this in different ways. The NIV says, meaningless, meaningless, says the teacher, utterly meaningless, everything is meaningless. Do you imagine walking into a class in college or high school or somewhere along the way, and this is how it begins? You know, all the things we're going to talk about, they really don't have a whole lot of meaning. The New Living says, everything is meaningless, says the teacher, completely meaningless. So vanity, meaningless, or if you were to look at the Net Bible, it uses the word futility, that everything is kind of futile. And you've probably run into things in life that feel that way, where you just think, well, I'm doing this, but there's no point. If you have small kids at your house and you have just completely cleaned a room up and you feel like you've accomplished something, and then you walk back into that room 30 minutes later and realize you've accomplished nothing, or if you feel like you're constantly trying to keep up with the dishes or the laundry or something at work or whatever it is, sometimes you maybe just think to yourself, what is the point of all of this? And this is where Ecclesiastes begins, which I'm going to have to be honest with you. This is not how they taught us to start a sermon in college. They taught us to try to catch people with something, but if I tell you it's all just meaningless, you tend to kind of shut that off and wonder, well, what's the point of everything? The word in Hebrew is hebel, and it carries a lot of different connotations depending on where it's used in Scripture, but just some of them to give an idea. And again, those videos that are in our Bible reading plans really like the idea of smoke or vapor. So it's something that is kind of there 1 minute, and then the next minute it's gone. And so it's not that it never existed. It's not that it didn't serve some sort of purpose. It's not even that there may not have been some sort of beauty about it, but then pretty quickly it's gone. Smoke or vapor, something that is empty or worthless. Breath, which obviously is important, but at the same time, once that breath is exhaled, it's gone, and it's just air out there with everybody else again. Nothing or vanity. So many of the things he runs into in life, this is what he thinks of them and how he describes them. So this book, in a lot of ways, is about our search for meaning. And we look at it through this preacher or teacher's eyes, but I think we can really resonate with a lot of what he has to say. Because if you're anything like me, you have probably searched for some sort of meaning in a lot of different places. And even now, you may have a tendency to do that, whether it's interests that you have or the work that you do or your family or any number of things. People tend to start to define life by just these little things that bring them joy and meaning. We were, because it was kind of a lazy Saturday, at least part of the day yesterday, we had HGTV on, and we were watching House Hunters, I think it was, and there was a guy who was hunting for a house, because he's on House Hunters, who's looking for a house, and the only thing he's looking for is a room where his ceiling fan will look good. He's found a ceiling fan that he really likes in life. He plans to take it out of the house in which he currently lives. And every house he would walk into and he would look and he would say, well, these ceilings are too low. My ceiling fan is not going to work in here. And I found myself thinking, who is this guy? The ceiling fan is it. And it seems so ridiculous. And yet, if he were to watch a TV show about my life, there would probably be something that he would think, why does this guy think this thing is this important when in reality, it's really not? And it's easy for us to see that in the life of someone else. But in our own, we will just latch onto those things and try to drain whatever meaning from them that we can. So in verse 3, he begins by saying this: what does man gain by all the toil at which he toils under the sun? So the first place you may search for meaning is work. And this is probably a good time for us to understand here that the things on this list, for the most part, are not positive or negative in and of themselves. Work can be a good or a bad or a neutral, for that matter. There are probably people among us who go to work for the paycheck. You got to feed your family, you got to pay your rent, you got to go to work, that's why you do it. There are probably those among us who have a job where you feel like you are doing something that is meaningful and worthwhile, or you're helping people, or you're using a skill that you have, or whatever it may be. We all kind of view it differently. But it's when work takes that place of, this is the place where I find meaning in life, it begins to change. It changes the focus toward work in a different kind of way. And so he says, well, what does a man gain from all this toil under the sun? Down in verse 9, he says, what has been is what will be, and what has been done is what will be done, and there is nothing new under the sun. So whatever we may think that we're doing or accomplishing, when we're gone, that thing will either continue on or it will stop, and life will go on in our world. And you've probably all seen the meme or heard the quotes or things like that, that if something were to happen to you, probably within a few days, your employer will find somebody else to do the thing you used to do, if it's an important thing. And life will carry on and go on. And again, when we think of these meaningless things in Ecclesiastes, it's not a real encouraging thought if that's where we put so much of our meaning. And yet the writer here says, it's not work that brings you your meaning, even if that is the thing that oftentimes we tend to move towards. So secondly, in verse 12 through 14, he says this, I, the preacher, have been king over Israel and Jerusalem. I applied my heart to seek and search out by wisdom all that is done under heaven. It is an unhappy business that God has given to the children of man to be busy with. I have seen everything that is done under the sun, and behold, all is vanity and striving after the wind. So secondly, wisdom. And again, clearly wisdom is not a bad thing, because we find a lot of places in Scripture where God encourages us to seek after wisdom, and also reminds us that true wisdom comes from Him, and if we want wisdom, we should ask that of Him. And yet, if our striving for wisdom is the thing that brings us meaning, we're missing something. Verse 18, he says, for in much wisdom is much vexation, and he who increases knowledge increases sorrow. You find sometimes that the more you know about things, the more frustrated you may get with things, whether it's something important or something that's not. When you know the way something is supposed to work and you see it being done not in that way, and you just feel like you want to get in there and fix it. Or even in small things. We at our house, if you ever show up at our house at 6:30 on a weeknight, you're probably going to find me on the couch watching Wheel of Fortune. And I will sit there and I will watch Wheel of Fortune, and I will think to myself, how did these people get on the show? I mean, have they seen this before? They're struggling. They don't know the words. They're calling letters that don't make sense. And I would get so frustrated with it watching it. It's such a small thing. But there's so many things in life that are like that, aren't there? Where you just find yourself, as you know more and gain more wisdom, you just get frustrated with everything that's going on. And so wisdom, again, is not a place where we can really find true meaning. Then in chapter 2, he says this, I said in my heart, come now, I will test you with pleasure, enjoy yourself. But behold, this also was vanity. And then in verses 9 and 10, he said, so I became great. So he begins with pleasure, and then he says, I became great and surpassed all who were before me in Jerusalem. Also my wisdom remained with me, and whatever my eyes desired, I did not keep from them. I kept my heart from no pleasure, for my heart found pleasure in all my toil, and this was my reward for all my toil. So he's worked hard, seeking after meaning there, and now he has gained all of this, and he still is not finding what he needs in it. We can't find meaning in pleasure and possessions either, because there's always going to be something else to look for more pleasure, and there are always going to be more possessions to be had. There's never enough. And so if this is Solomon, which we assume it is, who has so much wealth and so much power and so much of everything that he could have, and even he looks at all of that and says, it's not enough. It's not going to give me the meaning I'm looking for. In verse 11 of chapter 2, he says, then I considered that all my hands had done, and the toil I had expended in doing it, and behold, all was vanity and striving after the wind. Now, it would be easy for us to look at this and say, well, that's easy for you to say, Solomon, you had all of that. I don't. And man, if I just had some of that, wouldn't things be so much better? And yet Solomon is there to tell us, it's not what you think it's going to be. You have all these assumptions about, well, if I just had this, then everything would be okay. And Solomon says, no, it really won't. All of it's vanity and striving after the wind, and there was nothing to be gained under the sun. So pleasure and possessions are not it. And if you think to yourself, if I could just have this, or just do these things, or just enjoy life in this way, and pretty much every commercial you see on TV is built around this. Whether it's a drug that will make you feel this way, or something that you can drink that can make you escape from it, or the things you've got to have that you don't know you've got to have that someone else has made, all of these things that they try to tell you, if you have this, then you will feel this way. Have you noticed, if you've been around for a while, car commercials on television used to be about horsepower and the way it would last and the way it was built and all of these things, and now they're all about how they make you feel. You see the people and what they're doing and the happiness it seems like they have, Everything about our world is telling us if you just had these things, then you could be happy, then you could find meaning. And Solomon says, no, that's not how it works. In chapter 5 and verse 10, he says, he who loves money will not be satisfied with money, nor he who loves wealth with his income. This is also vanity. And this, I think, we can see clearly. Whether someone is poor or wealthy within our culture, are they satisfied with what they have for the most part? Or are they trying to find ways to have more? Why do people try to find every loophole in their taxes as they can to make sure that they don't pay any more than they absolutely have to? They want to keep more of it. Why are people always looking around for the best interest rate on something or looking around for whatever it may be? They want to keep as much of it as they can. And then when they reach a certain level, and you've probably experienced this, a lot of you in life, when you reach a certain level, then there's just something else that's just a little further out there, and if I could just get there. But yet this striving for money is not going to bring you the meaning you're looking for either. Money and power doesn't do it. In verse 13, it says, there's a grievous evil of chapter 5 that I've seen under the sun. Riches were kept by their owner to his hurt, and those riches were lost in a bad venture. And he is the father of a son, but he has nothing in his hand. So he's trying to gather whatever he can, but you just can't hang on to all of it. As he came from his mother's womb, shall he go again, naked as he came, and shall take nothing for his toil that he may carry away in his hand. You gather these things, and again, it's easy for us to look at people who are at a level higher, or many levels higher, and assume this is talking about them. But all of us have something, don't we? Things that we tend to gather, things that we tend to hoard, things that are important to us when it comes to money and power, and yet those things in the end really just don't matter because we will not be able to keep any of that when we leave this world. In chapter 6, verses 1 and 2, he says, there is an evil that I've seen under the sun, and it lies heavy on mankind. A man to whom God gives wealth, possessions, and honor, so that he lacks nothing of all that he desires, yet God does not give him power to enjoy them, but a stranger enjoys them. This is vanity. It is a grievous evil. So power is the same kind of thing where you feel like power is going to come with money, and I think we tend to assume that, but they don't always go in hand. God does not always give both to the same. And so there is this power that people cannot have as well. Money and power are never going to be the answer. You're never going to find the meaning that you think you will find in money and power. And in our world, we have more examples than we can count of people who have had both somewhere along the way and have lost both completely. And it didn't bring the meaning that they thought it would bring. Chapter 8, verses 16 through 17, he says, when I applied my heart to know wisdom and to see the business that is done on earth, how neither day nor night do one's eyes see sleep, then I saw all the work of God, that man cannot find out the work that is done under the sun. So he considers now all the work that God does. And we may have lots of thoughts about exactly what that is or what it's not. But what Solomon, or the wise man, realizes in all of this is fully understanding God is not a thing that we're going to attain. He looked at the world, he looked at the God that he knew, he thought about what is it that God is doing here, and you can't really fully understand all of that, can you? Because if you could, he wouldn't be God. Now, it's not bad for us to want to seek after an understanding of God. It's not bad for us to want to know as much about God as we could possibly know. We're trying to do that on Wednesday nights this summer as we talk about knowing God. But there will always be a point where we don't know everything about God. Solomon sees all the things of the world and wants to understand God, but even in that, he cannot find meaning. In verse 17, it says, however much man may toil in seeking, he will not find out. And here is one who God has given all this wisdom to. He will not find out fully about God. Even though a wise man claims to know, he cannot find out. There's always going to be something about fully understanding God that we don't fully understand him. Chapter 9, verse 3. He says, this is an evil that is done under the sun, that the same event happens to all. Also, the hearts of children of man are full of evil, and madness is in their hearts while they live, and after that they go to the dead. Is there meaning in life and in death? And what the wise man tells us here is, this is something that we cannot avoid. And again, the commercials that are not telling you about the thing you need that's going to make you happy, or the thing you can have that's going to have you escape from the things that don't make you happy, they're going to try to tell you about how they can help you to live longer. But in the end, we cannot escape it. Death will come for all of us. And we look at Ecclesiastes, and there's this, everything is meaningless and vapor and smoke and all of that, and then everybody's going to die. And it really just kind of puts a jump in your step, doesn't it, to look through the book of Ecclesiastes? It's tough. And yet, these are the inescapable truths, that as we look for some sort of meaning in this, even there's not meaning. In verse 9, he says, "Enjoy life with whom you love, all the days of your vain life that he has given you under the sun, because that is your portion in life, and in your toil at which you toil under the sun." So however many days that we have, enjoy those days with the ones that we love, because again, he slips in the noun form here of vanity, or the adjective form of vanity. Your life is vanity. Your life is temporary. It's something that's going to come and it's going to go. So spend those days in ways that are more meaningful. Whatever your hand finds to do it with your might. So if you hear that work doesn't matter or that things don't matter, don't hear it wrongly, because he still says what you do it well, but don't find your meaning there. Whatever your hand finds to do it with all your might, for there is no work or thought or knowledge or wisdom in Sheol or the grave to which you are going. All of these things, they're going to go away. So do it well while we are here to do it. So life and death is not the place where we find meaning. But then he makes it all come together at the end of the book. This is one of those books, by the way, that as you're reading through and you're probably thinking, this is really kind of tough, and I'm going through and everything just seems so pointless that you almost want to turn to the end and see where this is going. And this is what you would find. In chapter 12, verses 9 and 10, he says, "Besides being wise, the preacher also taught the people knowledge. Weighing and studying and arranging many proverbs with great care, the preacher sought to find words of delight, and uprightly he wrote the words of truth." So he actually was looking for something that seemed delightful, even though so much in this book doesn't seem that way. But what he did find was a lot of what is true. The end of the matter, all has been heard. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God will bring every deed into judgment with every secret thing, whether good or evil. So as we search out meaning in all of these other things, which, by the way, if we really stop and think about it, they're all the things that everyone in our world searches for their meaning in. It's not things that are eternal. It's not things that really matter. It's all the different ways that people in our culture look for meaning. But instead of that, fear God and keep his commandments. The place we will find meaning is in God. He is something that is so far beyond everything of this world, and he is the one thing within all of this list that is eternal. He is not something that is going to come and go. He is someone who is eternal and will always be with us. So as we look around for all of these different things of meaning, maybe our real search for meaning needs to be, could we find God within these things? Could we be people at work who are godly people and trying to represent him well to the people around us who don't know him? Could we be people, as we're seeking out wisdom, not to seek the kind of the wisdom the world seeks out, but to seek the wisdom of God? Could we be people, instead of looking for pleasure and possessions the way the wise man talks about it here, be people who find our joy in our hearts in God? And we think of the possessions and the money and power and the things that we have as tools and resources that we can use for God, for the advancement of his kingdom, for his work here. As we seek to understand him, should we also seek to understand ourselves and who we are in his eyes? And as we live and die for him. We find meaning in God. And maybe this is one of those books where turning ahead to the end and seeing how it turns out might help us a little bit to realize all of these things, that a man with all of the resources of the world and all of the wealth you could imagine, all of these things really just don't matter in the end. What matters is our relationship with God. And tonight, if you do not have that, you can change that. You can be baptized into him, you can begin to walk for him, and you will find meaning like you have not known before. Or if you have, maybe like the wise man in Ecclesiastes, found yourself looking for answers everywhere else, maybe God has you here tonight for a reason. Maybe it's time for you to see that the answer and the meaning is in him. If there's some way we can help you tonight, please come while we stand and sing.